Hi again, everybody, and welcome to Inside Golf. I'm Harry Donahue. Hey, I'm no dummy. I'm in the shade here on the patio overlooking Huntington Valley Country Club, where recently they conducted the Hyman Classic, and we will have results of how it all turned out in future editions of Inside Golf. But today, we're going to stay with the pros and the amateurs, as we'll take a look at what happened in the Philadelphia Section Assistant Pro Championship, as well as the section's Senior Club Pro Championship. The winners, along with several other golfers from both of those events, will be making their way to a national event at Port St. Lucie, Florida in the fall. Also coming up on today's show, Gap recently held its Patterson Cup competition, and we'll take a look at how it turned out. So from the heat at Huntington Valley, we got a lot in store. It's a hot show here on Inside Golf.
Inside Golf is presented by Destination Montco Golf. 54 courses, 300,000 yards. Check them out at montcogolf.com. By the First Tee of Philadelphia. The First Tee helps young men and women become better golfers, but most important, better people. Get involved. Visit thefirsttphiladelphia.org. By the Golf Association of Philadelphia. Gap, celebrating amateur golf since 1897. By Jersey Man Magazine. It's a Jersey way of life. And by Philly Man Magazine, bringing it to Broad Street. By the Haverford Trust Company. Quality is in our DNA. And by Inside Golf's partner since 1998, the Philadelphia Section PGA. Experts in the game and business of golf. Take time to thank your local PGA golf professional.
Golf has always provided the health benefits of fresh air, focus, and fun. Now let's apply social distancing to the game we love.
Stay home if sick and always stay 6 feet apart and avoid large gatherings on the course.
Try thumbs ups or fist pumps, not handshakes or fist bumps.
When in doubt, just don't touch and wash your hands.
Mark your ball clearly and wear a cloth facial covering when taking a lesson.
Finally, respect your fellow golfers and let's be grateful for every swing.
Recently, the Philadelphia PGA section held its National Car Rental Philadelphia Assistant PGA Professional Championship at St. David's Golf Club. Capturing the title was Mike Tobiasen of Deerfield Country Club in Newark, Delaware. Mike shot an 8 under par 130, including a final round 62. Mike will lead 6 other section PGA professionals competing in the 44th National Car Rental Assistant Professional Championship in November at the PGA Golf Club in Port St. Lucie, Florida. We asked Mike how he was able to stay sharp during the pandemic.
I tried to get out and practice as much as I could. Luckily in Delaware, we never closed the courses, so I've been busy, all the way up since April. I've been slamming with golfers, which has been great for the golf course. I haven't got to spend a lot of time on my game, but today I brought it together. I hit a lot of good wedge shots, made some putts, and just played solid golf.
A highlight of Mike's second round was his long birdie putt.
Yeah, so I was on the back of the green. We turned that par 4 into a par 3 in. It was 196 up the hill, hit 6 iron. Was just on the back side, had a little slider, about a 25, 30 footer, sliding about 3 feet. Just judged the speed correctly, and she fell in. So that was a good momentum for me to, finish up the round.
Chasing Mike Tobiasen was Steve Swartz. Steve is from West Shore Country Club in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania. He finished 4 strokes back at 4 under par 134. And he talked about what he needs to do to get ready for the national championship.
Today I switched to the first time to an arm lock putter, which I had never used. So I actually carried 2 putters today. Wanted to see how it was going with that putter. I used it on the putting green and it felt great, and I putted really well other than the last 3 holes where I kind of struggled a little bit. But plans are I got to fix a tee shot. Didn't drive it very straight, so that's what's got to change.
Among those who will be joining Mike and Steve are Overbrook's Ashley Greer, who had already earned her spot for having been a member of the inaugural Women's PGA Cup in 2019. Also participating will be Brett Walker from Sunnybrook Golf Club, Trevor Benzel from Overbrook, and Ross Seaman of manufacturers. More recently, the section held its senior PGA Professional Championship at Concord Country Club. Defending his 2019 title was John Pillar. John turned in a 6-under par 134. To do so, John had to fend off Dave McNabb of Applebrook Golf Club in his sudden death playoff.
I played very patient all day today. Golf course was out there and playing quite tough. I knew I was trying to make up some ground with Dave, and fortunately was in the same group as him. He played wonderful golf. Just really stayed patient. I know that sounds like the old cliche, but I hit the ball very well both days, kept it in front of me, and really didn't stress too much. I mean, a bogey-free 66 today is exactly what I thought was going to be needing. Actually, I thought 5 under would be, for me, where I was going to be good to catch him.
John and I were battling neck and neck, and we both made a couple nice birdies on 17 to try to get in each other's head, but it didn't work out that way. So, but it was a great, steady round of golf. Yeah, we had a good pairing and a good time out there.
The sudden death hole, number 18, wasn't easy for either of the golfers. John Pillar hit his second shot into the right bunker. Dave McNabb's shot went left and landed near the cart path, and it required a free drop.
Once I got in the bunker, it was not a difficult shot. It wasn't going to get close, but I knew I could at least leave myself probably 6 to 10 feet up the hill, which was the goal. Dave had a tricky lie, knew he was probably going to get something in there similar, so it was really going to be basically who could get up and down. And he had a bad break, and I was just fortunate to walk out and as the champion.
John Pillar earns a berth in the National PGA Professional Championship to be held in October, also at the PGA Golf Club in Port St. Lucie. Joining him in Florida will be the runner-up, Dave McNabb. Also, Greg Farrow from Deerwood Country Club in West Hampton, New Jersey. Dave Quinn of Laurel Creek Country Club. John Allen from Huntington Valley Country Club. George Forster of Radnor Valley Country Club. And Brian Kelly of Bucknell Golf Club in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. Aside from playing at a high level, our local PGA members have many club responsibilities that are part of their daily work routine. We asked what they need to do to stay competitive for events like these.
It's tough. You're going to have your ups and downs, especially not being able to play as much, being a golf professional. You think you're going to play all the time. You just have to sneak in the practice as much as you can. There's no really easy way around it. Times you finish at 6:30, 7 o'clock, you're going to have to go out and practice for at least an hour and a half. That makes a big difference.
I think it's really all about dedication and determination and finding the time to work on your craft. I'm fortunate that I'm at a spot that the members encourage that. I'm fortunate that my family supports it, and but perseverance, patience, and positive attitude goes a long way.
I just think you got to make sure you have a practice routine, whether it's 20 minutes or it's an hour. But then the big key, as far as being competitive, you have to play events. You have to find time, because you can play, you can practice all you want, you can go out and play around the club, but to really understand what happens on a competitive round of golf, there's a lot of ups and downs, and you have to figure out how to manage that out. And most of it's mental, and we know that. A lot of it's physical. I've been playing long enough to know what happens with my golf swing when the pressure gets on, and the 18th hole is a perfect example. I hit it 80 yards right, 40 yards left, but kind of understanding, and then sometimes the breaks go your way, which is what happened today. So I'm very fortunate.
Welcome back. Inside Golf now continues with a look back at the Patterson Cup, the 2020 edition. Patterson Cup's been around for a long time with the Golf Association of Philadelphia. And here to tell us how it all turned out, GAP's Marty Emino.
Thank you, Harry. Zach Barbin needed a few extra holes, but eventually made it 2 for 2 in GAP Major Championships this year, with the victory in the 118th Joseph H. Patterson Cup right here at the 1912 Club. And he made a bit of history in doing so. Barbin became the first player in a quarter century to win both the Amateur Championship and Patterson Cup in the same year. The last to turn that feat was James Cania Sr. of Overbrook Golf Club in 1995. The typical 36-hole stroke play championship was reduced to 18 holes due to Hurricane Isaias.
I played really well in the first 14 holes, really solid golf, a lot of good drives, a lot of good iron shots, a lot of two putts. I putted really well, got up and down a couple times. Last 4 holes were a little bit shaky. I was getting up and down, trying to get up and down from everywhere. And on 18, I hit in the bunker, and then I hit a decent bunker shot to like 6 feet and missed it. And then I went into the playoff, and the playoff was a roller coaster for sure.
Barbin, Pine Valley's Jeff Osberg, and Philadelphia Cricket Club's Gregor Orlando all finished regulation with 3 under par 67s. The Patterson playoff format is 4 holes, aggregate score. And as it turns out, all 4 playoff rotation holes, 1, 9, 10, and 18, were all par 4s. After the first 2 holes, Osberg led Barbin and Orlando by a stroke, 7 shots to 8. On the third playoff hole, Barbin drew even with Osberg by converting this unlikely 35-foot birdie. Osberg needed a touch of magic himself and chipped in for par. The two were tied. Orlando, unfortunately, made a second bogey and dropped 2 shots back with 1 hole to go.
I hit a good 9-iron right where I wanted to, about 35 feet, and that putt was sick. That putt was crazy. I wasn't trying to make it, I was trying to lag it, but perfect putt, perfect speed. It worked out really nice.
In regulation, Barbin and Osberg each had a chance to earn the title outright on the final hole, but each made bogey. This time around, the 18th hole proved just as eventful. Barbin crushed a drive and watched his approach stop 20 feet right of the cup. Osberg followed suit off the tee and slightly pulled a 9-iron from 154 yards that spun off the front left portion of the green and stopped 35 feet away. Osberg, up first, putted through 5 feet of fairway and watched his birdie attempt curl left to right on the high side of the hole and stop about 2 feet shy. Barbin charged his birdie bid a bit. He drained this knee-knocking 4-footer to save par. Osberg's par try then went very much awry.
I didn't think he was, it's Jeff Osberg, like he doesn't miss those kind of putts. You know, he's one of the best players, if not the best player in our region. And I can't believe he missed the putt. I was expecting to go into, I don't know what else we were planning on for playoff, but I made that nice putt coming back because I was like, that putt I made coming back was really hard. I can't believe I made it. And then I figured, he had 3 feet or whatever, and it's tough to win that way because we're both playing great. Gregor was playing great too, and it's kind of like you want to beat the person to win, not have the guy make a mistake like that on the last hole. It was a shame.
Ironically, Barbin and Osberg tied atop the Silver Cross standings as well. The Silver Cross is an annual award presented to the player with the lowest aggregate score in the qualifying rounds of the BMW Philadelphia Amateur Championship and the 2 rounds of the Joseph H. Patterson Cup. This year, unfortunately, the competition was reduced to 36 holes due to COVID-19 restrictions. The Silver Cross requires an 18-hole playoff, so Barbin and Osberg returned to the 1912 Club a few days after the Patterson Cup to determine the winner. Both players carded rounds of 72, and the duel continued with a sudden death playoff. And Osberg par on number 1 gave him the title. It was Osberg's 5th Silver Cross. The legendary J. Wood Platt holds the record with 7. Reporting for Gap, I'm Marty Emino.
Thanks, Marty. And it's time now to reunite with our old buddy Lou Guzzi. He's got a good golf tip for us.
Hi, Lou Guzzi here for Inside Golf. A real quick tip here for the viewers out there. We are talking about getting that backswing shorter. You know who you are with that long backswing, trying to hit it real far like somebody I know. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make a chip backswing. You heard me right. We're going to get set up and just chip the ball. Then from there, here's the tip. We're going to feel the chip backswing with a full finish. Practice swing. Full finish, and yes, we're going to actually hit the golf ball off a tee, chip backswing, full finish, and now here's the beauty of this. You're actually going to make your swing bigger. That's right, instead of trying to make it shorter, we're going to make it bigger. One more shot off the tee, a little bit bigger now, chip back, full finish, and then you get your video face on, just like our camera here with Inside Golf. You look at the video until you get the backswing exactly where you want. Hope this tip helps you out with your game, and remember, keep them in the fairway.
Articulate, thoughtful man who had a lot to say and said it well.
Welcome back. Inside Golf now continues with our teed off panel. We're going to put a topic right on the tee, and our panel's going to hit it out of sight, we hope. And joining us today, back from the Golf Association of Philadelphia, where he is the president of GAP, Mr. Quinn Spitzer. Quinn, always a pleasure to see you. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you doing, Harry?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Joe Logan probably holds the record for most consecutive appearances on Teed Off, and he's adding to it again today from myphillygolf.com. He's actually working on, he just told me, his second book, The History of St. David's. And he's already done one on Applebrook, St. David's, with a little bit of a longer history, right, Joe?
By about 120 years, yes.
That's longer. And joining us for her first appearance on Teed Off is Meg Donahue. Meg is the assistant professional at Manufacturers Country Club, and she's a great teacher, golf instructor. And Meg, welcome to Teed Off. This is a little bit different than what you're used to when it comes to golf, right?
It is very different. Yes, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Great to see you. All right, panel, let's talk about a topic today that kind of like leans on you to give us an idea among some of the greats in the history of golf. And I'll just name a couple, a few of them, and then if I missed anybody, you can add to it. But from this group, Quinn Spitzer, who would you like to sit down and maybe interview, for want of a better term, or even play around the golf if you could, from among the greats? And I'm going to just throw some names out there, and I'm sure I'll miss somebody maybe that's on your bucket list or what would have been. Bobby Jones, Arnold, Jack, Seve, Tiger. Who else? How about Mickey Wright, Annika Sorenstam? Maybe I missed somebody, Quinn, that you would like to add to that list, but I'm sure you can find one or two that are on the list that you would like to sit down with had you been given the chance.
Yeah, it's an embarrassment of riches. You could talk to almost all of them and really learn a lot about the game of golf. And, you know, my initial reaction was somebody like Arnold, because I was born in Pittsburgh and my family has deep roots in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. But the two that come to mind are Bobby Jones, who was a true Renaissance man. I mean, the man was an attorney. He has multiple degrees. Well, I grew up about 5 miles from East Lake Golf Course in Atlanta, Georgia. And I would love to learn a little bit more about him and how he came to be so amazing from the standpoint of both his work and also his golf. But the other one not on your list that I've been recently intrigued with is young Tom Morris. He was almost certainly he was the first professional golfer. There's some great golf books out about young Tom, The Master of the Green, Tommy's Honor, and I would love to understand how he came to become basically the world's first professional golfer. So those would be my two.
How about that? You know, I was thinking of the Morris, either young Tom or his father. They definitely have a place in the all-time roles of the great game that we love. All right, Joe, and I'm sure you probably already did interview Arnold Palmer. I know you did. Probably Seve and some of the other people on that list. Did I miss anybody, though, somebody you would really like to have had the chance to sit down and talk to?
Like Quinn, the one that jumps out at me is Bobby Jones, because of everything Quinn said. He's a obviously a winner, but an articulate, thoughtful man who had a lot to say and said it well. I have been fortunate enough to interview both Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus a bunch of times in person, singular, and in press conference situations. Both of them could not be any more gracious or forthcoming. They're old school guys who knew how to do an interview, knew how to promote the game and themselves. A lot of today's youngsters really don't need those interviews, and you can tell in their level of cooperation. Those two guys, completely different story. Annika, I love to death. She's so shy. She was a bit of a difficult interview just because she was so shy. Sevi was great. I'll tell you, when you miss, Tiger could talk for an hour and you go over the transcript and there's literally nothing to use. You just couldn't say that. But one that you didn't have on the list, who was a great interview, is Phil Mickelson. He is a tremendous interview, very thoughtful, very forthcoming, not afraid to say anything.
Yeah, I'm sure, Joe, you would love to sit down with Bryson DeChambeau too and go over the science of the swing, but that's a work for another day.
Yeah.
All right, Meg, it's your chance to talk about the list that I proposed, and I'm sure you've got one or two others maybe.
Well, when I first looked at your list, I would definitely have to say Arnold Palmer was at the very top. I had the pleasure to meet Arnold a couple times, actually. I grew up at Marion and he played at Marion. And one of my favorite things about him was I had an older sister and she asked me to go get his interview or his autograph at dinner one night at Marion. And I walked over and I asked him for his interview, but I asked him for two, one for myself and my sister. And he said, I will not give it to your sister. She has to come over here and get it herself. And he sat and he talked to us for about 10, 15 minutes. And I've just always had high regard for him and also Jack as well. So those would be my two. Yeah. And Mickey Wright, I would just like to watch her swing for 18 holes. So.
Yeah. Who was it? I guess Byron Nelson said she had the greatest swing he ever saw. Mm-hmm. And, unfortunately, she passed away in the last year. And, Joe, you talked about Annika being shy. Mickey Wright, from what I read, I never had the chance to meet her, was also a very shy woman, wasn't she? I mean, she was very private. Yeah. Even till the time she died. I mean, she was, just that personality. And we see a lot of them. It's the antithesis of a Sevi or a Phil even, some of the more livelier personalities that are out there today. But I think that's the game of golf, Meg, too, that everybody, there's no one formula for a successful golfer when it comes to personality. They're like everybody else, It's just one's quiet, one's not, but they still can play the game. And, there's no cookie cutter personality for somebody who's a great golfer.
Meg told that story about Arnold Palmer. I love it. And anybody who's been around Palmer has seen him do exactly that kind of thing. And I've seen over the years, people would walk up to him and reintroduce themselves and say, Arnold, you probably don't remember me, but you signed my visor when you were walking off the 18th green, like in 1964. Now, most people would look at her and go, who in the world are you? Not Palmer. He would always say, like, it is so good to see you again. I hope you're having a good time this week.
Yeah, I'm sure, Meg, when you had that chance to get his autograph at dinner, he probably looked in your eyes and you probably felt the immediate contact. Because that was my experience with Arnold. Oh, you were the most important person at the time that he was with.
Yeah, he was just, you could tell right from the minute he was a wonderful human being. And he asked you a question, he cared about the answer, just like Joe was saying, he just immediately, it just poured out of him that way. So, I was only probably 10 or 11 at the time, and I always,
Well, I'm sure there are a lot, Quinn, of 10 and 11-year-olds who were 10 or 11 at one time and have now aged gracefully to remember a similar experience to what Meg had. He was quite a personality.
He's an amazing guy. And one little known fact about Arnold is years ago, he started the hotel Spring Hill Suites across from the Latrobe Airport. And he went to the Marriott Corporation and said, I want to put a bar in here. And they said, we don't have bars in Spring Hill Suites. And he said, then you're not going to have one from Arnold Palmer in Latrobe. And of course, the Marriott Corporation immediately collapsed and relented. And so there's a bar in the Spring Hill Suites in Latrobe, Pennsylvania.
With a lot of Kettle One.
Exactly.
We'll end it right there. Panel, thank you. Stay with us. More to come on Inside Golf. Well, that's going to do it for this week's edition of Inside Golf. Our thanks to the Golf Association of Philadelphia and the Philadelphia section of the PGA of America. And speaking of which, pro event right here in Huntington Valley occurred recently. It was the annual Heidman Classic. They've been holding this event here at Huntington Valley in honor of the great Billy Heidman for almost 40 years. It began in 1983. And we'll take a look at how it all turned out in 2020 in a future edition of Inside Golf. I'm Harry Donahue, and remember, no matter how bad it's going for you out there, don't pick up. And while we're here in Huntington Valley, remember, the putts always break to the valley. We'll see you next time, next week on Inside Golf.
Inside Golf is presented by Destination Montco Golf. 54 courses, 300,000 yards. Check them out at montcogolf.com. By the First Tee of Philadelphia. The First Tee helps young men and women become better golfers, but most important, better people. Get involved. Visit thefirsttphiladelphia.org. By the Golf Association of Philadelphia, GAP, celebrating amateur golf since 1897. By Jersey Man Magazine, it's a Jersey way of life. And by Philly Man Magazine, bringing it to Broad Street. By the Haverford Trust Company. Quality is in our DNA. And by Inside Golf's partner since 1998, the Philadelphia Section PGA. Experts in the game and business of golf. Take time to thank your local PGA golf professional.